What's up? February 28th, the last day of the month, and can you believe that it took me almost a full month to beat this game, huh? Fire Emblem, what's up? Talking about it, you know. I'm in kind of a serious mood here, ladies. Please, chill down. No, I mean, it's felt like a long time. I've been devoting a lot of time into it. In the end, it took me like 31 hours. It's pretty nuts. So I figured, you know, what's a better thing to do with a Frazzlog than to talk about Fire Emblem, right? Alright, so this is also kind of like a prototype for my new Frazzle reviews, which I don't plan on going as hard as I did. I'm just kind of trying to create like a basis so I can like whip out these quick reviews, because I don't think these like reviews that I've been doing have been that great. Like, you know, like I don't have my notebook next to me to show you an example. Basically, what I normally do is I take like, you know, like a notebook paper, and you know, like I'll put down the story, sound, gameplay, likes and dislikes, and then like an overview for like my final thoughts on the game. And you know, that's cool and everything. It's really sweet to like go back and see like what I thought about Final Fantasy 13 when it first came out. It's cool to do that and stuff, but at the same time, it's very time deficient. You know, like I'm putting a lot of time, not even that much time, just like a minute here, a minute there, but still, over the course of playing the game, it's just kind of, it's getting in the way of me enjoying the game, I think. So what I'm doing is I'm introducing the new Frazzle rating here. This is a Frazzle first. Welcome. And also, just so you know, these Frazzle reviews are 100% unofficial, bitch. Oh yeah. Is that a sandwich, Frazzleberry? Why yes, it is a sandwich. Now, as always with the sandwich, you gotta put some chips on there. Personally, I prefer the baked chips. Today's choice is baked Ruffles, sour cream and cheddar. Very good. Once you have your first layer chips on there, crunch it down. But hey, that's not what this video is about. This is about Fire Emblem. Like I said, it took me 31 hours to beat. I guess I can give you just like a little brief introduction of the story. So you take place at, well, it doesn't take place, I forget the world name, but you start up the game in the kingdom where you're this amnesic avatar that you create, and well, they do like a little prologue that kind of, you know, stories how they'll do that event where like the game starts up at the very end of the game, but then something happens, and then they like screen goes black, fades back in, and you're at the beginning of the game. They start off with one of those. Basically, you and this dude named Crom are fighting this bad guy. You beat the bad guy, and then you find a moment of betrayal. So they're like, "Fuck it, we gotta figure out how this betrayal happened." So you go back in time to the present day, where you're this amnesic character who is found by basically the Prince of the Kingdom. Spoiler, not really. You find out that pretty fast, but yeah, the Prince of the Kingdom and his sister, who's the princess, and his group of shepherds are basically, they're kind of like the guardians of their kingdom. They basically just roam the land, you know, killing bandits, getting them out of their property, and all that. So you basically tag along with these guys till the capital, and then you decide to fully like team up because evil's brewing. Like the next door kingdom or whatever is starting a war with your sister, the queen, and it's up to you guys to go put an end to this rebellion or whatever, this coup d'etat. And as the story goes on, nothing really. There's a time skip at one point where, you know, I was a female character, so like me and the main character were married, we had a kid, and all that. But really, chapter 1, like, okay, story 1 and story 2, they didn't really feel that eventful, honestly. You know, with I always go back to the Radiant games because I think they had the perfect story. You know, you had a bad guy that you could, he was bad, but at the same time he had good motives too, so he wasn't this complete asshole like the characters in this game who were just completely out for world destruction or whatever. And this game, it's just kind of like, you don't really have that serious bad guy along through the whole game. You know, you start off fighting this other kingdom or whatever, you beat that kingdom, then another kingdom is brought into the fray, and you beat that kingdom, And that kingdom is actually pretty cool because it's the Conqueror, right? This he conquers entire nations pretty much by himself. Like, his army is him on the battlefield fighting another army. So that's pretty cool, but they don't really do much with him. He's introduced at the beginning of story 2, and then you beat him, like, I don't know, like a couple chapters later, like 5 or 6 chapters later, and I don't know. But once the actual bad guy is brought out, which is of course the bad guy that in the very beginning of the game that you're fighting, he just wasn't that memorable as a villain. Obviously, he's trying to resurrect great evil that will destroy the world, and time travel is brought into the story, and this is, of course, the future where the great evil was resurrected, so, it's just a very basic fantasy story, it's nothing crazy. What is cool, though, is basically, since Fire Emblem's always been about these, like, social links, and, having, like, two soldiers, when they're always fighting near each other, they'll become, like, closer, and in this game, they can actually get married and have a kid. Since there's these warriors coming back from the future, your kids actually come back in time and they join your army, which is pretty sweet. But as the story itself, really weak, I think, for a Fire Emblem. I would, like, on a Frazzle scale, I gotta give it a 0.5 out of 1. Okay, story, fuck you. Okay, that's average. Average at best. Gameplay, though, is where it stands out, compared to the other Fire Emblems, they've added a couple things, like this and Shadow Dragon are pretty much as close as it gets. The newest thing they did was add in group attacking, which is where if you have a soldier next to your guy, they'll actually both team up and fight that enemy. Now, if it's like your ally and you have a relationship and you're already leveling up that social link, you'll actually end up you'll get better stats from teaming up with that person. Which is a pretty cool system. It makes you actually want to level up your friendships and everything and try to max out all of the possible friendships. However, one thing with that is basically the guys can only match up with the girls that he can marry and all that. So he can't really match up with too many of the guys. Same with the girls. They can't really match up with too many of the other girls, and then they just match up with the guys. Kind of a bummer, but oh well. It's still a really cool idea. Works really well. To the point where pretty much some of your characters, they won't even get hit anymore. They'll critical every hit. Your stats end up getting buffed up pretty high. And it's really cool because you can actually, like, let's say you have, like, a really bad character that's kind of underleveled at this point in the game. If you make him, like, walk up to that unit, he'll, like, jump onto that unit and team up with that unit. His stats will also carry over to that unit, so that character will get a buff. And, it's really interesting the way they do that. But if you don't know what Fire Emblem is, this is probably confusing you. Fire Emblem is a strategy RPG. I probably should have mentioned that, but it's a top-down strategy RPG. The way I love it, I don't like that 90-degree camera angle bullshit that you see in Final Fantasy Tactics and Disgaea. It's straight up, top-down. You can see the whole battlefield. Perfect. You take turns moving. You have your phase, then the enemy moves. If you move to an enemy, you can attack them and everything, and heal your teammates and all that. Gameplay-wise, though, there's an overworld system now. It's not just a scenario-based levels where you go from level to level to level. You actually have a overworld, which basically it's a really cool idea, but kind of broken, I think, because you can potentially fight infinite enemies and max your character's stats out, which is kind of, I don't really like that because it kind of kills the challenge of actually leveling up your characters and all that. But they needed to do that in order for the DLC to work, which there's a lot of. But from the overworld, it basically spawns random enemies, and then you can go fight these little enemies on previous levels, which is an okay idea. You can go visit all these shops that you unlock and such. There's also side quests, which usually are there to unlock new characters for your army. It's a cool idea, definitely, but they're not very strict with it. There's even an item that spawns more enemies onto the minimap. Well, not the minimap, but to the overworld, so you can keep leveling up. And I believe you can keep replaying DLC over and over again, which gives you even more experience. So it's kind of nuts the way they're doing that. As of now, there's already quite a bit of DLC. There's like Marth's DLC. There's Roy's DLC, there's Micaiah's DLC, and then there's, I think, there's like some Gold Room DLC where you get a lot of money from killing enemies. And then there was maybe one other one. But the cool thing though is they're doing this thing called Wireless Box, which is where every week they'll add, it might be every day actually, they'll add a new Fire Emblem game, and then they'll add the characters from that game as recruitable party members. They won't have social links or anything, but you can still level them up and change their classes around and all that, which is a pretty cool system. Yeah, gameplay. There's a lot to it. Definitely able to put over 50 hours into this game if you wanted to do a lot of the side content. And potentially there's a lot of replayability. I mean, you could do a lot in this game. You could, I guess your renown, like some of your points carry over to your next playthrough or something, and I don't know. You can do a lot. I'm not sure if there's any multiplayer versus in this game. I thought there was, but I think I could have been wrong. I guess you can play local co-op 2 players, but I'm not sure if there's any like verses or anything, which would have been fun. But yeah, Fire Emblem Awakening. Gameplay, it was good. I'm giving it a solid 1. You know, it's good. Don't get me wrong. As for sound, it's average. Fire Emblem, you know, Fire Emblem's never done music well. And with that, I don't know. I give it a 0. Alright, my first 0, fuck you. It's below average, I think. There's not a single song in here I would ever go back and re-listen to. The voice acting is good, though, however. I will say that. But just the sound in general, though. It's just a lot of repeated voice dialogue. And then there's a lot of just really horrible music. So, I give that a 0. In the end, though, I give the whole game probably like a 1.5 out of 3. It's right there on the average line, I would say. Blah!